Students, welcome back. In this module, we will look about ethics. In the previous class, we looked at free press and laws, and in this module, ethics is going to be our focus. Ethics is it's a lovely topic. We can talk about it for several hours. And what is ethics? If you look at the terminology of ethics, it is derived from the Greek word ethos, which is nothing but the guiding spirit or traditions that govern a culture. And we discussed in the previous class that under the First Amendment, the journalists are protected. They can express anything that they want in this country and all that. But when you look at ethics as such, it nothing but the rules or standards that governs someone's conduct. And a professional ethics is nothing but the same thing. But here, what we have to look at is the rules or standards governing the conduct of the members of a profession. For instance, it might be in the field of PR, or it might be in the field of advertisement and all that. But let me ask you a question. What do you think is the difference between law and ethics? What is the difference between law and ethics? We discussed media laws, we discussed the Alien Sedition Law, we discussed the Espionage Act of 1940, and we discussed so many laws, and when it's violated, people are arrested or fined or prosecuted. We looked at so many instances, we looked at so many cases, censorship and libel and all that. But when it comes to ethics, ethics is nothing but when you violate it, you're not prosecuted, but then you are doing something which is not accepted by the society. And that's the main difference between law and ethics. Ethics is more of self-awareness, and law are basically it's a set of guidelines given by the government. It is formed by the legislature, the public officials, and the judiciary. They come together, they frame a law, and when you violate it, you're prosecuted. But ethics, even the government also comes up with certain guidelines and all that, but necessarily when you violate it, you are not prosecuted for that. I think that's the one key thing that you need to keep in mind in terms of the difference between law and ethics. So moving on to the next step, we are discussing about many aspects of mass media, and mass media faces four types of ethical issues. And one, truthfulness; second, fairness; third, privacy; and fourth is responsibility. We will look at each and every aspect of that, and then we will discuss about how ethics comes into play with regard to mass media. Ignore the message. That's my sister who keeps buzzing me. Anyway, what is truthfulness got to do with ethics? Okay, truthfulness is more than being accurate and not lying, and that's very important in terms of fabrication, something made up in order to deceive. And the other aspect is plagiarism, passing off as your own the ideas or writings of others. These are something that cannot be tolerated when it comes to media. So let's look at an example. Okay, I think many of you must be familiar with this figure. His name is Brian Williams. He is with NBC. What happened was during one of his nightly news presentation, he was having a chat with one of subjects, and there he was talking about how he was covering the Iraq war, and he was in a Chinook helicopter, and it was almost hit by some missile or something. And he just said like, oh, I managed to escape and all this stuff, as if he did a great thing. People believed it. But people in the military, they run a local in-house magazine and journal, and there they disputed the claim made by Brian Williams and said he was on the ground at that point in time, and we were there with him and all that. So I think some of the media picked up the story and fueled it and made it a big thing. NBC demoted him, they suspended him for some time, and it was bad, okay, because and then they looked up several of his previous stories, and it looked like he sometimes exaggerated some stories. So this is not something like, no, oh, he's bad or something. Brian Williams is a very good correspondent, but then people make mistakes, and in this case, I think even though they didn't make him pay money or anything, they just want to scold him or chide him because of the media was very upset with the fact that Brian Williams was exaggerating the things that never happened. I don't know, many of you must be familiar with O'Reilly, Bill O'Reilly. He's also a very popular guy, and he also had exaggerated several times. I think he did some coverage in Nicaragua and El Salvador and even in Ireland, and he was nothing but doing some armchair reporting, which means people don't leave their office, but then they report from the desk as if they're reporting from the field or from the place where the thing is happening. And he actually was caught with the fact that he exaggerated some of the stories that he wrote as if he was there and he witnessed that, which he never did. But Fox never took any action against him because of the fact O'Reilly Factor was such a phenomenal show in the sense it was raking in a lot of money, almost $100 million. So they didn't want to do anything and just kept quiet. But I think recently he got caught in some kind of sexual harassment case, and that actually brought him down. So when this happened way back, like few years back, I think Fox never took any action against him, fearing that the loss of this show means that's going to be loss of money. Again, there are some organizations which will take action, and there are some organizations which won't take action. And O'Reilly Factor, I think the Fox News channel didn't take any action when he was found that he exaggerated some of the issues in his stories. And again, these are some of the issues that you can see all over the world. How reporters are plagiarizing or copying some other sources and don't give proper attribution. And in this case, it's about Coup, where he was one of the journalists at New York Times, but he was found out that he was using stuff from Wall Street Journal and all the other online medium platform and using it in a story. See, gone are the days when people are cannot identify what you're doing, but see, everything is online. People can really track what you're talking about. I've seen so many times when people are reading an article and I can go and see the comment. They will say, oh, there is a grammatical mistake in line 3, and they will also say sometimes the content is wrong. So you're under constant scrutiny, because gone are the days when you can write a story and get away with it. Now if you make a mistake, the whole world is watching you. So you, as a journalist, you cannot afford to make mistakes or do this kind of activities by copying some other article or copying some other people's content and claim it as your own. That is not acceptable. And he was fired as well. So fairness means even-handedness. For instance, we are looking at how a reporter has to be balanced and impartial and be very fair in reporting and all that. But there are many aspects in terms of ethics. One is insider friendships, second is conflicts of interest, and third is checkbook journalism. Let's look at insider friendships. See, as a print reporter or a television reporter, you have access to like big people like celebrities and political leaders and important figures of organizations like WHO and United Nations and EPA and many other organizations. And what happens is sometimes this kind of relationship can go to a different level, and that is not right. And one such thing happened was, I don't know many of you is familiar with this. His name is George Stephanopoulos. He was very close with the Clinton regime, and he was working at the White House, and then he became a big time television anchor. and then he was able to interview Clinton or Hillary Clinton anytime at a very short notice. But then he was later found out that he was giving a lot of donation for the Clinton Foundation. See, what happens is, you might ask me, what's the big deal? See, if I am going to pay some kind of money for someone for their organization and for their growth, then naturally there is some kind of tie between these two people. And if he is a good reporter, he should at least mention or make it clear to his employers, yes, I am actually a big fan of Clinton, and I want him to succeed in politics, so I'm giving him money to pursue his political agenda. So he never disclosed this to his employers or to his viewers. And it was, I think it was Huffington Post or some Politico, they actually brought this to light. And then George Stephanopoulos, he apologized for that. And I think this kind of insider friendship, I think people will not know until they disclose. But if they find out later, it actually portrays you in a very poor light. We don't want that to happen. And the second thing is conflicts of interest. What do you mean by conflicts of interest? Reporters who accept personal or financial benefits from sources, sponsors, or advertisers. I told you I was a journalist for several years, and I've had several instances when we go and interview people. They'll say, "Oh, sir, can you please keep this money as gas money and for your conveyance or for your crew?" I said, like, I am being paid by my organization. You do not pay me. You don't tell me what to do. I actually not even got a single dime as a reporter or journalist. But many of my colleagues, they don't mind getting that, because again, it's ethics, right? Okay, personally, I feel it's not acceptable to do that, but it's another things for them. It's acceptable. I will tell you another story, interesting story. One of my friend, he does all this business, and he covers gold markets and all that. And he was very familiar with all this kind of people who sell gold, wholesale dealers and all that. And one of my friend was telling me, I was telling him, hey man, my sister is in the States, and I have to buy some jewelry. This guy told, oh, you get in touch with this guy, and he will put you to some nice people where they can give you good discount. Oh, I thought that's great. But then it didn't strike me then later I found out, so these are the people that this guy is interviewing for the television story, for the television, for a story. And that's how he's having some insider friendship with these guys, and they are giving him a good discount because they are getting popularity in media, and they are getting some kind of ad exposure through the media. So I thought that was bad. I never got the gold for my sister through that guy. So anyway, the point is, this kind of insider friendship are there. There are also conflicts of interest. Sometimes the reporters, they may not disclose. I think in the book they talk about Ben Affleck, where they were doing a story show for PBS, Finding Your Roots. And in one of the programs they found out one of Ben Affleck's ancestors was a slave owner. And Ben Affleck didn't want that to be projected in his story. But then, when PBS found out that Ben Affleck was trying to suppress this material, they called off the show. They said, no, we want to have transparency with our audience, and we cannot let this go on. So, the moment they knew that this thing was happening, they actually called off the show. That is ethics. See, they want to stick to their principles and don't want to, bend or, give some kind of lenience for this kind of issues. Some organizations, they don't tolerate this kind of behavior. And another thing is freebies and free travel. I have actually done this because there was an company called Indian Oil Corporation, where they were opening a oil company in one of the islands in the Indian Ocean, and they flew us to that place because the minister was opening that gas industry, and it was going to be bringing in a lot of economy and a lot of job opportunities for some of the locals. I thought that was a good way. So, and they sponsored our free travel to that island. So even though I felt personally, I think it was not right, but then it's also the fact that it is also benefiting a lot of people as well. So what I did was I went to the island in the Indian Ocean, but I also did several other stories. I tried to interview some of the locals. What are some of the aspects there? I was trying to reach out to some of the tribals who are living there in that part of the region. So yes, I have done some free travels, but even though it's technically not acceptable ethically, I've done that. So I cannot claim, oh, I've never done that. I've actually did some free travel through some of these organizations. And cover journalists are people who get paid for covering certain events. For instance, there is a marathon that's happening in Westchester, and it's being done by some organizations there. And when media people come to cover there, the journalists expect them to get some money, because in that way they will give them more promotion for their stories. So these are things that happens in the field of media, and there are many journalists who don't tolerate this. But there are journalists in some countries where they think they need to be paid for visiting or covering certain events. This is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And the next one thing is checkbook journalism. This is nothing but paying for your sources for access to interviews and sound bites. And I think Brad Pitt, I think he was in a festival at Cannes Film Festival, and some of the media organizers wanted the media to pay money to get an exclusive interview with Brad Pitt. And then when it was actually highlighted in the media, then they said, no, no, the money was meant to, for the infrastructure of the hotel and all this stuff. So again, these are the things that happens, and sometimes it comes to light, sometimes it does not. And for instance, I don't know if you have seen this. She is a very it was a very sensational case. I think her name is Dugar, where she was held captive for several years, and it was a sensation at that point in time. And she gave an exclusive interview for ABC, and apparently they paid a good deal of money to give an interview. So whenever you see exclusive of something or some other channel, then you can see that the organization has taken some special initiative or a special step to ensure that they've got this proof, because they're going to get TRP, because everybody was talking about JC Dugar, and they want to know what happened, and they want to get some inside story about what happened during the captive period, and how what kind of a torture she had to endure and all that. And this was a sensational case. Maybe you may not be familiar with this, but it was one case that rocked the entire nation, just like Casey Anthony and several other cases. I mean, there are several cases over every period. I think right now we're talking about O.J. Simpson, we're talking about Bill Cosby, and we're talking about several cases. I think one of the sensational cases in the recent time was this guy from Miami, where he let his baby in a hot car for several hours, and the baby died. But then he was caught because they found out that in his Google history, he found out how to kill toddlers in the hot sun or something like that. So his search history actually implicated him that he actually premeditated that particular murder. Anyway, so be always wary when you see exclusive, because people go to some extents to pay money. I think several European channels, I think it's accepted. For instance, if there is a sensational case in some place, okay, and they like to go to the place, they like to interview their neighbors, and they'll tell them specifically, hey, you only have to talk to me, don't talk to any other channels, we will pay you so many dollars or so many pounds. These are things that happens. And the last one is and third one is privacy involves respect. Okay, what do you mean by privacy? Because see, we are living in such technological innovation that access to things are very easy. People can easily hack into your emails, people can easily hack into your voicemail. And this actually happened many times, where the reporters had sensitive access to many celebrities and political figures and leaders. And I think the News of the World was one such organization that was based in London, It was owned by Rupert Murdoch, and many of the journalists and reporters had access to emails of the royal members and other celebrities. But then they found out they were misusing this, and eventually they even shut down the organization. So sometimes you'll have to pay a big price. And the second thing is concerning rape. If you noticed, media actually, when they report on rape, they have to be extra sensitive. They should not disclose the name of the concerned people, because they don't want to make sure they have the privacy to the individual, because they don't want the concerned people to be affected because of their name, and it can definitely affect their future. But the media took exception with regard to Bill Cosby's case, because when Bill Cosby's case actually was gaining momentum, 40 people or 39 people came forward and said this guy raped me. And New York Times did this exceptional thing where they detailed each and every case individually by exposing the women, their names, and how it was even being done by Bill Cosby. So this was something that rocked the old media, because it not only kind of questioned the ethics that involved with regard to rape victims, but also the kind of thing that's involved that sometimes people want this for monetary benefits. So that was not kind of good. That didn't settle well with several other media folks. But the New York Times magazine, I think they went ahead and published this. And the last one in me ethics is responsibility generates trust. And one of the things that we need to keep in mind is with regard to how sometimes media can actually have tussle with corporations, and sometimes they will give in to them, and sometimes they really fight tooth and nail. And one such instance was these two people. I think she was a technological journalist based in LA, and she was writing about Uber's tactics, because a lot of people were not happy with Uber. Uber actually is a transport company where they made billions of dollars in a very short span, but then they also had some cheap tactics to get the ways done. There are a lot of allegations how Uber is kind of exploiting the drivers, how Uber is kind of trying to make their presence in certain regions across the globe. And this has come with a price. And this guy you see on the left, his name is Emil Michael. He's the senior vice president of business at Uber, and he was not very happy with Uber getting negative reviews and negative portrayal in the media. And he was actually having a chat with some of the people in the media, saying like, I want to find out what kind of a person this lady is. I want to know about her sex life, so that we can kind of magnify that and portray her and all that. But a lot of media folks got this information, and they actually made it a big deal, and they kind of highlighted the how Uber representative was talking like this. But then he was not reprimanded or chided by Uber CEO Travis Kalanick. He just kind of they said like, we really apologize for this, but they didn't suspend him or fire him or anything. But I think recently, even Travis and this is Uber CEO and this thing, I mean, I don't know whether you're following the company progress. Uber is in great soup, and they're in deep trouble. And I think Emil Michael resigned from his position, and I think even the CEO also has resigned from his position as well. I think so. But the point is, how media and some corporations are always, trying to kind of, work things out. And if the corporation feels that media is kind of, mishandling their image or something, they will go to any extent to make sure to gag the media professional who are trying to portray them in a very bad or a negative image. And with regard to journalists, I think there is something called Society of Professional Journalists, where they have set of code which they expect the journalists to follow. And there are several things, but I'm only going to highlight about the two or three important things. The first thing is seek truth and report it, minimize harm, and be accountable. And there are several other important guidelines they are giving for the journalist, but I think the most important thing is to seek the truth and report it without any kind of fabrication. I think that is what is key for journalism. And also this is what they're expecting the journalist to follow. But you also saw in several cases how journalists, they blatantly violate all this guidelines for their own personal growth and interest. So this is what we need to keep in mind, that media faces four types of ethical issues, and you need to understand how this ethics is can affect the journalism and can even affect us as well. So please upload your class test by 11 p.m. tonight. You all have a nice day.